I met him on the first night he came home from the Marines. I did. First night he came home from the Marines, I met him. I was friends with his cousin, and so she wanted to go see him when he came home. So we went over there, went over to his mother's trailer, and he had his duffel bag, and he was pulling out all these cigarettes and clothes and throwing them there on the couch. And I thought to myself, why don't you just empty your bag? I know what you're doing is saving your underwear. And he finally admitted it after we started going together. That's what he was doing, saving his underwear. He didn't want to pull them out. I don't have any underwear I've washed in 25 years.
She thought I was a smart ass the first time she met me because she came along. Me and Danny Hip were going to town one afternoon in my mama's car, and I hit this wet curve and I said, hold on, Hip, and we spun out of control, spun in the ditch. I landed in his lap and blew out 2 of the tires. And they came along to help me, and I done called a wrecker, and she thought I was getting smart with her daddy, and I said, no, it won't do any good to pull it because 2 tires are blown, the wrecker's on the way, but thank you anyway, and I went. And she claimed I got smart with daddy, so that's where I first met her. She was about 15 then, though.
But I don't remember that.
But then I saw her again the day after I got out of the service, and she was with my cousin. They came over to my house to see me, at my mama's house. And she had grown up and changed a lot by then. So we started dating. Had her first date on New Year's Eve, 1973. 1972. 1973, right, yeah.
I remember I was sitting on the swing of my mother's house when he gave me the engagement ring. And then he went and bought a trailer. He went and bought it, and I never did see it until after they brought it out here and set it up. And then when we got married, it was so hot that day. I cried. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, the day before I got married, and started crying and cried until I walked down the aisle. I was 19. I was 19. He was 22, 23.
Actually, she proposed to me. Yeah. Something like, are you ready to get married or something like that, yeah. Yeah. That was in her daddy's living room. Right over here, across the driveway. Yeah. She don't want me telling that, would she? She's probably told some shit on me, though.
And we got married August 17th of 74. Yeah, 74. He worked at the stove factory when we were dating. And then he got on with the fire department. Why? It was a job opening in Oxford. Didn't want to go anywhere else. He didn't have a college education. He didn't want to work at the factory. I guess the wanting to help people, maybe.
It looked like might be a pretty exciting job to have too, something that'd be pretty interesting to learn all this stuff about how to be a firefighter and go put out fires and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just had 2 years in the Marines, I was ready for something like that.
I never worried about Larry. Never. I don't think I ever worried about him once. Not even when they had the big fire at the carpet place. Knowing that he was there, I never did worry about him. I trusted. Your life was controlled by on duty, off duty. If it was Christmas and he was on duty, Santa Claus came the day before. Or 3 o'clock in the morning so we could have Christmas before he left to be at work at 7. Everything, revolved around the fire department.
There was always the fire department. Every third day there was always the fire department to go to. It was just regular clockwork.
A shift, B shift, C shift. Then he worked 24 on, 48 off. So he worked part-time jobs on his off days. bricklaying, carpentry work, cleaning carpets, answering the phone. He worked for a surveyor before. We ran the little country store. He did it all. He had to. He had too many babies to feed, too many bills to pay.
It goes by so fast, man. When you grow up, you don't really think about it. And then you get married and start raising kids, and I get to asking myself, when we're going to be 10 years down the road. You're still going to be doing the same thing you're doing now, or you're going to try to do something better with your life.
Fire department, babies, get up, go to bed, go to work the next morning.
Because I didn't feel like I was doing a whole lot with it. I had a pretty good job being a firefighter, but I worked all these shit jobs too, man, where I was sacking groceries and cutting pulpwood and hauling hay and painting houses and building chain link fences for Sears and Roebuck, all that crap. And I worked like 7 days a week, and I did that for years. And I said, man, ain't there something else you can try to do?
Larry always had these whims, right? Where he was always going to do this, going to do that. And he picks me up one day from work, and I said, you're late, where have you been? And he says, I've gone to Joyce to get your typewriter. I'm going to start writing. And I said, oh yeah, well, okay. And he goes, and I had this old-timey desk. He sets everything up, and he just goes into it, and he writes constantly, every day, all the time, when he's out of the fire department.
I think I was just curious if I could do it, if I could sit down and write a book. And so I sat down and wrote the book, but I was so naive, I thought that I'd mail it off to New York City. They'd mail me back a check, and I found out it don't work that way. Not for most people, it doesn't. Once in a while, somebody slipped through the cracks.
So it was like work at the fire department 24 hours a day, go to a part-time job, come home, and put himself in his writing room and sit there until it was when he couldn't stand it any longer and had to go to bed. We never saw him. Right?
Pretty much it.
I mean, I didn't marry Larry the writer. That came years later. I mean,
she didn't marry a writer.
I didn't. This was thrown at me. I didn't ask for it.
You didn't ask for it, did you?
I didn't ask for it.
You're not born with it. Nobody's born with it. That's just something that you develop, just like I compare it to a bricklayer who goes, studies with a journeyman for 5 years to learn how to lay those courses. And the reason I say that is because if you could have seen all the early stuff that I wrote, like the first 5 novels I wrote and about 100 short stories, you would have to say that I had no talent. You wouldn't have any other choice. It's that bad. So I think it's something you just develop according to how bad you want to. If you're willing to hurt enough, you can have it. This is a list that began in 1982, and this runs up to about 1989. And this is a document or a record of the titles of all these stories, the magazines they were sent to, and when they were sent out. And each one that has a line drawn through it is a rejection there. Just about all this stuff was rejected. You can see there's like 5 or 6 stories out of all these pages.
Those were hard. That was to see him work so hard, and then those slips come in. It would just be little short sentences. Well, we're sorry that we can't publish this at this time. Try us again. Things like that.
Here's one called Old Frank and Jesus. That was never taken. It was sent out over and over and over. Here it was sent to the Parish Review. Here it was sent to the Carolina Quarterly, rejected. Same story with so many of these short stories, they just rejected. There's where Old Frank and Jesus was rejected at the Georgia Review in '84. Old Frank and Jesus rejected Antaeus, November '84. Old Frank and Jesus rejected by the Antioch Review, July '85. Old Frank and Jesus rejected by the Michigan Quarterly, May 10th, '85. Old Frank and Jesus rejected by Plowshares, May '85. And it got so repetitious, I just started putting down the initials, OFAG, Old Frank and Jesus Texas Review.
He was so determined to make it. He'd stay right there with it all the time. He might come and sit down and eat with us. To this day, he usually doesn't eat with us because if he's writing, leave him alone, let him write. He'll eat when he gets hungry. So we've always done everything without him around because he was always writing. But when Larry writes, that's when he's the happiest. And when he's not writing, that's when he's so depressed and you don't like to be around him. You can't stand it.
I just kept going. I just kept collecting those rejection slips and just figured out after about 2 years what's the kind of thing that you gotta be in for the long haul. Keep on going. I don't know how anybody could eat this much okra. I just don't.
I think they...
I love it as much as anybody, but boy, this is a lot of okra.
Too much.
I don't remember us ever having this much.
No, this was planted too thick. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they should have thinned a little of this out, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I can't figure how it got to grow this tall.
I don't know. It just keeps getting taller and taller, looks like.
Yeah.
I always put just a little bit in at a time and put my meal and flour on. Get it completely covered. Make sure my grease is hot. When we lived in Memphis, we were just a short distance from the library up there, so as soon as they all started school, they got their library cards. And we went once a week and got books. And everybody read, all of my children, and we still do.
She was really the one who turned me on to reading. I mean, I think I started reading way before I went to school. Grimm's Fairy Tales, just Moby Dick, man, just Jack London. One of the best things she did for us was bought us a set of encyclopedias, those Britannicas ones, when I was like 10 or something. I loved all that stuff. And then I just kept reading. Even when I was in the Marine Corps, that was one of my favorite things to do. Whatever base I was on, I went to the library, man, and got me some books, man. That's what we did. So it's just something that I've done all my life, and that's what brought me to writing finally. I finally got to wondering how the person go into a room and sit down and write a book where nothing had existed before.
When they were children, they stayed at home. They were not allowed to roam around anywhere while I was at work or their daddy, and that was good pastime for them, and it kept them from fighting a good bit too, all four of them like that, But that's when they learned to read. They realized what you could learn, what you could memorize, and keep within yourself what you read. You don't ever forget when you see the printed word. You may hear something and it goes in one ear and out the other, but when you read it, you got it. It stays with you. That's why I feel about it.
I wrote that inscription. It says, for Daddy who knew what war does to men. And I got the first copy. After it was finished, I carried it over to her, and I wrote it in there, and for Mama who got me to read. He had such a hard time in the war. He was in the infantry for 4 years. Domino, get out. And he was lucky. He was only wounded one time, but he went all the way to Berlin. And a long time ago, we had a piece of pink granite that he chipped out of Hitler's actual fireplace with his bayonet. I mean, I'd see him read a newspaper once in a while, catch the news. But as far as opening a magazine or a book, never saw him do that. Never saw him do that. I don't believe he thought very much of reading. I might even go so far as to say that he thought it was, not too good a thing to be doing. I read a lot of Westerns at one point. Then I got to go into the bookstore. I started reading wider and wider, and I got to discovering people like, I discovered Flannery O'Connor in that short story class, but then I got to buying books by people like Raymond Carver and Tobias Wolff. Really started reading a whole lot more short stories, because that's what I wanted to write too, was short stories. I mean, the first thing I wrote was a novel, but I really got to want to learn how to write short stories. I had probably written, 40 or 50 stories, I guess, and none of them had sold, nothing had flown. And so I was trying to do different things with language. I was really impressed long about that time with Donald Bartlemy's work, his stories, the way he told things. And I was trying to do something that Bartlemy hadn't done. Boy and Dog, I was working then in the kitchen in the house that's across from my house, in my mother-in-law's house. I'd go in there every night. I had a few hours and try to write a story. And I started this one and was inspired by seeing this dog just walk out into the road one day in front of this Mustang cutting about 60 down the bypass. And the dog, it was just incredible to me that the dog could not see something that big and that fast coming and just walked straight into it, and of course was killed instantly. And so then another thing started happening, what if that dog had belonged to some kid that loved the dog a whole lot, and the kid was, kind of unruly, what would he do? And I got to looking over him after I'd written, I guess, the first page, and I said, I bet I can do something a little different here and just stack these lines one under the other and put 5 words in each sentence and make it look like a poem, but really be a short story. So it was really just an experiment in form. When I write the first line, that's when I want it to start happening, boom, from the get-go. That's what I try to do, is get my reader involved really deeply and hook him and essentially make him forget that he's reading.
The dog was already dead. He was in the road.
Man, I almost killed one going town the other day, a little old beagle with a red collar. I mean, I hadn't had nothing to drink or nothing. I just come so close to killing him. But, he just hit the road at the wrong angle. And I went over into the other lane and damn curve, too. Wasn't nothing coming, thank God. But, man, I'll do just about anything to keep hitting a dog, man,
Then a truck came along.
Billy!
He heard his mother calling.
Come to lunch now!
She couldn't see the dog. The dog was really dead.
I think one reason I love him so much is because I was denied having one until I was about 14 years old, because I lived in Memphis and you couldn't have a dog up there. My parents would let me have a dog. So the first thing I did when I moved to Mississippi, I got me a bunch of dogs. And I've had them ever since.
Bozo was an old dog. The boy was only 9. Bozo would be 11 forever.
They've got such great personalities. They're like people. I mean, they know stuff like jealousy and anger and fear and humiliation and all kinds of things.
He pulled on the dog. But another car came along. It was the killer Mustang. It was hunting its hubcap. The boy had seen it. He needed something to throw. He picked up a brick. The driver was going slow. He looked out the window. He really wanted that hubcap. It was around here somewhere. The guy turned his head. He didn't see the kid. The kid threw the brick. The brick was antique linen. It had 3 round, but it was still heavy. The kid said, "Oh shit."
Yeah, those wrecks are always the worst, man. I got to hating those even worse than the fires. I had gotten to the point where I could deal with a fire fairly well because I'd been around enough of them. But the car wrecks, no two are ever the same. They don't follow any pattern. So many forces involved. Their speed, weight of a vehicle, and human behavior. No way to predict what you're ever going to see when you get to one of those. The thing that always bothered me the worst was children, children being involved. That's what used to really tear me up. Which you didn't see a whole lot, but you did see it some.
He walked over to help. The guy's head was down. He looked sort of dead. Something popped under the hood. The yellow flames went whoosh. The gas tank blew up. He was needing a telephone. The emergency number was 911. His class visited the firemen. They mentioned playing with matches. They didn't mention throwing bricks. A pickup truck pulled up. Then a man jumped out. He was evidently a hero. The man grabbed the door. The fire rolled around him. Somebody needed to get help. But of course, nobody did. Some people won't get involved. The car was fully involved.
That's one of the few instances that I've put anything about the fire department into fiction. You get a bunch of boys. Firefighters are the craziest group of individuals I have ever met in my life, without fail. Don't matter if they're in Portland, Oregon, or El Paso, Texas, they're all just alike.
The driver was pretty nervous. It was his first run. He didn't set the brake. The nozzleman pulled the hose. The driver engaged the pump. This disengaged the rear wheels. The truck was rolling backwards. It rolled into a ditch. It was a deep ditch. The kid took it in. The Mustang driver got smaller. He regretted throwing the brick. The firemen were screaming loud.
We're gonna need another truck.
Get out of the way! Get out of the road! Away from the car! Away from the car! Everybody clear the area!
A van with newsmen arrived. They started setting up cameras. The fire department came running. They carried some powdered extinguishers. White clouds of chemicals rolled. People coughed and almost gagged. The gas tank kept burning. They ran out of powder. It was only baking soda. Most people don't know that. Firemen make money servicing them. They had steak suppers sometimes. They played bingo and drank. Once they had a party. Some of them got drunk. Then they had a run. Their food was barbecued goat. But the goat burned up. So did the Mustang driver. The other truck came then. The fire captain had arrived. He issued orders and listened. They stretched lines and attacked. An ambulance pulled up next. They pried open the door. One joked about crispy critters. This is a breakfast cereal. Then the mail truck came. The kids sidled off unseen. A wrecker was driving up. He stuck around to watch. He'd never seen a wrecker.
I got to the point where finally I was making a little money off my riding. I didn't have to work a part-time job on my days off at the fire department. All I had to worry about was pulling 10 shifts a month up there at work, and the rest of the time I could write, which that's what I wanted to do, was write.
I was an only child. My mother and father had me when they were 40. I remember thinking it was lonely.
Mine had 4 to divide their attention between. But I know she had to do a lot of hard-ass work, man. She used to run these cows around this place and with a stick, and I think I can remember seeing her drive the tractor up and down. This used to be a cotton patch in front where our hayfield is now. But I know she'd get on that tractor and drive it just like a man when she's 14 years old. Sure.
I was raised as a boy, just about, where Daddy had 2 tractors and we farmed, and he was on one and I was on the other all summer long. In the mornings, you got up early, you went to the field, you did what had to be done, and you would come home and you would be so tired you'd eat your dinner and you'd go to bed. I remember holidays thinking it was lonely. One reason I enjoyed going to Larry's mother's for holidays, because all of Larry's brothers and sister and their kids, and it's a lot of fun. Loud. Stories being told on one another. Larry doesn't stay in the family room much, in the house with us much.
I think the less trouble going on in my personal life, the better my work is, and the easier it is to do my work. It doesn't really bother me to spend these long periods of time by myself. That may be just part of my personal nature.
His routine now is to get up about 6, 7 o'clock at night, drink his coffee, mess around out in the yard for a little while, go to Tula, come back, mess around in the house a little bit, and then as we're getting ready to shut our day down, he's starting his day. And he'll write all night long. That's just the way it is. I don't know why. He was never around the kids that much. I mean, he did help raise Leanne more than he did the boys, because Leanne was born premature, hole in her heart. but I'm the one that's in charge of the kids. He likes to be off at Tula, and I like to be at home with the kids, and that's the way it's been all of our married life. Larry's always wanted a place over there to write, to go to. Peace and quiet, his own little place. As we all said, Larry's always been in his own little world. Well, that's Larry's little world at Tula.
This is at Tula. This is where my parents are from, my mother and daddy, and all my ancestors, clean back to the ones that got killed in the Civil War, buried up here. And this is really the place I came back to when I was about 13, when I was brought back from Memphis. And my mother just lives about a mile away up the road over here. But to me, this is where I come when I want to be in a quiet place, in a relaxed place, and just get away from everything that I do the rest of my life. We've talked about getting a house in town. We've talked about building a house in Tula in addition to the little one I'm building. But we haven't made up our minds yet. We don't know yet what's going to happen.
We'll move to Tula.
We might not. I don't know. We may have a house in town too. I've always kind of wanted to have a house in town.
But you always want to go back to Tula.
Well, I'm going to have that place at Tula. I mean,
Well, but it's not like a house.
well,
Maybe he just don't want us over there.
no, it's not that. I just don't know if I'm ready to move over there full time or not. I do a lot of work over here, a lot of manual labor over here, like cutting down these trees that the pine beetles have killed and just trying to clear it on up. And what I'm eventually working my way back around to is getting it cleared enough where I can re-fence it all again and keep some of my cows over here. I've got a pretty good barn up on the hill there. Just don't have a residence over here yet. All my kinfolks, my daddy and my baby are buried over too, and that's where I'll be buried eventually.
I didn't care that he was writing. I knew where he was. He was right there in that bedroom with the lights on, with me trying to sleep and a little bitty baby in the baby bed next to us with him, at his typewriter writing. So I knew where he was. I could sleep, but when he's not there, I wondered where he was, what he was doing. He's usually out at a bar.
There's so much material in there.
Yeah, that's what he says.
But that's what I've been around, and what I'm still around. It's one of the things that I know the best.
I'm sure that's where most of his stories come from. Sitting in a bar. The slimier the better,
The way I do, I go to a bar for a while, then when I leave that bar, I don't go back no more. I just kind of move around. In the case of Opals, it got to be the damn level of humanity coming in the damn place was too bad to put up with. I mean, it got to where they was having shootings and stabbings. And some dude walked in there one day, somebody whipped him the night before, and he brought in the damn 30-30 and let off a round right through the middle of the damn bar there. And it just got to be too damn rough for me. I mean, when I go out, I'm not looking for no damn trouble or somebody stick a knife in my face. I want to have a few drinks, and have a good time. All this fighting bullshit, So I started Opals, then I went to Ireland's, where some more of my stories are set, and a lot of the stuff on fire is set. And then I went to City Grocery, and I'm still at City Grocery now. So it's just like a natural thing for me to put a story in a bar, because that's where I spend so much of my life at, in a bar. Because that's where I hang out with my friends.
He loves his friends. Friends are very, very important to Larry.
Most of the time I stay by myself in that room back there writing.
She comes into this bar one night, she took a stool. And I noticed the tight jeans and the short dark hair. and like a slinky white shirt. Hey. Sometimes at first glance the bodies look young, but the faces are not. This one didn't look old. Some friends I was supposed to meet hadn't shown up yet. I don't know why I didn't just get up and go home. I knew the kids asked my wife where I went and why. Her jeans were so tight that she had trouble getting the money out. And then she looked straight at me and asked me what I liked. I told her to play E19. "What's that?" she said, and I picked up my beer and went over to her.
I don't plan ahead for things. All you gotta have is a character and a place and a situation, what's going on, and then introduce another character into it, have these two people interact, and then see what happens with them, and then find out all this other stuff that's been going on in the past. Yeah. It's to me, it's just like, to me, it's really fascinating to see what they're going to do next. What are they going to do next? And then they do something totally unexpected you did not see coming, and then you know, bang, okay, that's what's going on here. That's the payoff for me.
All I had to do was be halfway cool and let her tell me about herself. People's favorite subject is themselves. She worked in this factory somewhere in town at a desk and a computer, and she'd moved there recently. I kept ahead of her drinking-wise so that I could keep paying, and after 3 I looked around and noticed that the bar was full of people. I asked her if she wanted to go for a ride, and she said yes. She dug into her purse and held up a twisted length of grass and a pink paper. After that, the music sounded better than ever. When I killed the motor, I could hear everything. Bullfrogs and whippoorwills, cars somewhere far off. She put my hands on the places they wanted to be. She was more than eager. She seemed desperate. She was all over me, hands, mouth. I thought you said this was safe. Well, I thought it was. Hell, I don't know who this is. And the car just sat there, right? I cranked the engine and pulled up beside whoever it was. I couldn't see anybody inside. It was like there was nobody driving it. And then we went on past it and out of sight of ways. And she didn't say anything for a while. And finally she said, "Next time we'll get us a room." There's not going to be a next time, darling.
That sex, that's what starts all the trouble. Mm-hmm. Between people. Or maybe not always starts it, but it sure adds fuel to the fire. Yeah, the worse you can make it on your characters, I think the better it is. You know, sandbag them and load them up with this stuff. And I try to start with trouble on the first page. Trouble on the first page.
The lights were off at the house. She'd even cut off the carport light. There wasn't even a lamp on. And then there was. "Where have you been?" "Riding around." "You know what time it is?" "No, what time is it?" "You can't keep doing me like this." "Okay, all right. Now can Can I go to bed? I went into the bedroom where my baby son was sprawled in the middle of the bed. I took my clothes off and lay down beside him, touched his hair and the side of his face. I thought of how horrible my life was, then I closed my eyes. Just before I drifted off to sleep, I was vaguely aware of her getting into bed. She didn't speak. And the next thing I knew, the alarm was going off. I have the kind of job where I don't have to be there every day, and I wanted to be on a boat in a lake with a pole in my hand and then a cooler full of cold beer to help me think over everything I needed to think over. I was messing up with these other women. I got home pretty late, and I only had 3 miserable fish, but still, I was determined to cook fish for my whole family. The kids were playing ball in the yard. Me, I was plenty drunk. She came up to me and tried to kiss me, and we messed around some right there in the carport, and then she got hot. And before I knew it, we were back in the bedroom with clothes partway off bumping together. That was when one of my kids shot his head around the side of the window and said, "Hey, Dad, you want to pitch a few balls?" He slunk away with many looks back. I got my clothes on and got the hell away from there. Some more nights later, I saw her come in again, but I didn't look at her, and she did her jukebox routine again. I knew she was going to sidle over, and pretty soon she did. "What do you got the blues about? We gonna do it again tonight? Please?" We wound up back in the same place. I knew lightning didn't strike twice. I sat up in the seat and reached under it for my pistol. Told her I was getting a little tired of this shit. Somebody threw a light in my face and told me to freeze. I heard a couple of shotgun safeties snick off real soft. "Just hold it, boy. Don't turn around. Now drop that gun. Now spread out on that fender there." I got frisked while she was putting her clothes on. She'd wisely hidden the joint in her panties. They told me they'd appreciate the shit out of it if I'd find somewhere else to park because they were working on busting some people right here, and they were sure I didn't want to be mixed up in it. I think it was like 3:47 when I got on home, after we'd finished with a motel room we'd used for about 24 minutes. I got on my forklift the next day and drove it all around the plant. I was on my back porch smoking a cigarette. "What are you doing?" "Nothing." "You want to take the kids out to eat tonight?" "Not really." "What you got planned?" "Nothing." "You don't enjoy this, do you?" "Why would you say that?" "Because I can tell." "You want a divorce?" "Not really." "Well, I hate that you're so unhappy."
Just because he writes women characters, that doesn't mean it's me or any part of the family, or his characters are not always us. The only thing I remember thinking that the refrigerator was full of Diet Coke cans. That was me. But that was, that's about it. People shouldn't think. I did have one person ask me, did Larry abuse me?
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, you know, no. Larry would never lay a hand on me. When it's nonfiction, like on fire, those stories, yeah, that's fine, that's our life. But the stuff that the novels and the short stories he writes, that's not us.
We happened again about a week later. She didn't even mess with the jukebox. She just made a beeline for me and got me by the arm. Come on over to my house. Well, I thought, why didn't we do this before? We couldn't even wait for the bed, had to get down on the couch. And that's where we were when a vehicle pulled up in front. And she starts making frantic motions, but I thought it was just the heat of passion. And then the doors flung open, and there's this big maniac coming towards the couch. I didn't mess with any diplomacy. I picked up a lamp and cracked him in the head with it. I called her about 900 different kinds of bitch before I got my clothes on and got out of there. But I did get out of there, hoping like hell he wasn't dead. I didn't know what to do after that. So I stayed home. Didn't go out and hit any bars. I hung around the house and watched TV, drank coffee on the couch, helped the kids with their homework, played daddy. I came in a couple of times and started supper and put clothes into wash, mopped the kitchen floor, dusted the furniture. My wife got to glowing. Things were great between us in bed. But I wanted that other one again because it was different and dangerous now. And so the peace and tranquility only lasted about a week. 9 days tops.
I think when you can't do anything else for your characters, when you can't help them anymore, then you know it's over. When you've done all you can do for them.
The last time I saw him, he came in the bar with her. They saw me about the same time I saw them. She was drunk on her ass. He eyeballed me, wouldn't turn his back on me. I saw him checking the exits. I was wondering what to hit the son of a bitch with this time. There wasn't anything in there but cue sticks and balls. There was probably a shotgun behind the counter, but I knew I'd never make it to that. There was always the side door, but I didn't think I was quite ready for that either. I wanted to see what her act was. I got up and put some money in the jukebox and sat back down. She swayed on the bar stool and looked over her shoulder at me and winked. And his beer slammed down and he was coming. I picked up the stool I was sitting on and just gave it to him. We found some place off in the woods. Not the same place, not her house, not a motel room, just a place off in the woods. She fed the end of a joint to me and I fed the end of a joint to her, and I wondered, what was the purpose? Then she laid those lips on me and we moved down in the seat. And I knew that it wouldn't be but a little bit before those headlights, somebody's, would ease around the curve.
I watched him burn a whole novel one day. Page by page. Stood right out there with that burning barrel and pitched one page in at a time. he just came out of his room and said, "This is no good." He just didn't think he had it.
I was real impatient when I was trying to come up and publish, and I thought I ought to have it a lot sooner than what it came. And I just didn't understand that I hadn't put enough time in yet. I'm talking about, say, 4, 5, 6 years in, that still wasn't enough time. I thought at that time that it was enough time. It turned out to be 8 years is what it took me to publish my first book. And it's a matter of patience. You just have to keep writing, even if you're not selling anything, publishing anything, keep writing and just believing that you eventually will. That's what always kept me going, just knowing that if I spent enough time in it, I'd eventually learn how. In the old days when I first started, I thought you just wrote it and sent it off, but then I learned by reading people like Raymond Carver that to polish is a thing, to work on each individual sentence and try to get each word good as you can make it, and to use understatement more than overstatement. These things are learned very gradually, on your own. The rough draft is the hardest thing to write. For me, it is. That's the hard place I got to go to every day when I sit down. Then the other part, when you go back and revise, that's when you learn more about what the story's about and where you see where you've overwritten something. And that's why it takes me so long to write a book, is because I revise and revise and revise. I'll retype a whole page to change one letter if that letter has to be changed. Because I don't have a computer, I've still got a typewriter. I just keep my novels in a 3-ring binder, where I can sit there with my red pencil and work on my sentences. And when I'm doing that, when I'm doing revision, I can stay with it 8-10 hours, but I can't stay with the first draft over 2 or 3 hours. That's too hard. I got my first book contract, which was Facing the Music, which appeared in 1988, and had good reviews and good blurbs, and I was working at the fire department. There was always the fire department. Every third day there was always the fire department to go to. That was just regular clockwork. And that eventually got to be too much of a chore. I finally got where I thought I could make a living. And so I quit my job, and I've been away from there now 10 years. Sometimes it's hard for me to go in places, like when I ran in there and get a pack of smokes last night, before we left. Now, like, when I got out of there, people just want to come up and talk, and some boy on some bookstore over in Alabama somewhere and tell me how many of my books he sold and all that, and I was proud to hear it and all, but, I knew y'all was waiting in the car and I was wanting to get back out of there, just get my cigarettes and go. So sometimes it's a little harder for me to hang out than it is for the normal person, just because of the people that have read my books.
It's like they'll, try to be friends with him, buy him a drink. Then, oh, by the way, will you read a story of mine? Or will you help me? Will you call your publisher for me? Or people just wanting to say, oh, I saw Larry, or I had drinks with Larry, I bought Larry a drink. And it's easier for Larry to say no to family than to friends. I don't know why. For a while there, we were second place, they were first place. And it just don't wash with me.
Yeah, if I'm home working, I'm not out messing around. You're sitting uptown till the bars close or something, And I just get so much more done. And I've known this, it's no secret, I've known it all along. It's just that sometimes I just kind of let it just get away from me. Maybe I just get tired, I don't know.
Where Larry and I had our problems was me at home saying, okay, Larry, you've got to take the garbage out. Larry, the sink needs fixing. Larry, yard needs mowing. We need to pay this bill. I'm bringing him back to reality. He goes uptown, everybody's stroking his ego, telling him how great he is, how they loved his words that he'd written down, or how proud they were of him. I think that got to Larry, thinking that, okay, maybe I am just a little bit better than Larry, the husband, Larry the father.
Fame is something you don't want no part of. If you can stay away from it, I think it's best to stay away from it. It's not what you thought it was, and there's too much stuff that happens that interferes with your work.
When we were first married, and for several years, we didn't have enough money for him to buy anything to drink. So he couldn't drink. But the more Larry was published and people recognizing him, and I think it was hard. I think he struggled.
I believe it's probably part hereditary too. I know my daddy was bad to drink and my granddad was bad to drink. And I hate to say this, but it looks like my boys are pretty bad to drink already, you know. And I hate that, but there ain't really nothing I can do about it, and I'm not no good example because they've grown up seeing me drink all their life. I ain't been a good role model, you know.
There's things that Larry's done that he should not have been allowed to get away with. But because he was a writer, he got away with it. Larry and a friend of his had been drinking just about all day, and they were really wasted at this bar uptown. And I went up there to get him, and I was trying to talk him into coming home, and there was a band playing. There was just a few people in there. So I asked the bartender to cut him off. He looks at me and says, "Who are you to ask me to cut Larry Brown off?" I said, "Well, being married to him for so many years gives me the right." And he said, "Well, I'm not cutting him off." "Cut him off." "No." I said, "Okay, if he leaves here tonight and he hurts someone or he hurts himself, I'll own your butt and this bar's butt by the time I'm through. There's no reason not to cut him off." I went downstairs, told Larry he could have at it, and walked out the door. Left him there. We were poor, but I had a very loving home life. If my mother and I went somewhere, before the day was out, my father was there because he wanted to be around us. And that's where I think that's where Larry and I have our problems. It's because I don't understand why you wouldn't want to be there.
It's the focus, it's my work, it's my daily job that I go to like other people go to their jobs. And my hours are erratic and I don't get paid, but you know, maybe a couple times a year or something like that. And I spend all this time by myself, but that's just what it takes. That's the nature of the thing. I wrote that one, this bar I used to go in out on the west side of town called Opal's. I wrote it probably about 1985. I think I wrote it the same year I wrote Facing the Music, and just what if a kid walked in a bar one day, wanted to buy some cigarettes and he wasn't old enough. That's where the whole thing started.
I was on the verge of going out to my truck for another pack of smokes when this kid walked in.
I need some cigarettes.
And of course, that's not allowed.
And then what would happen? Would they sell him to him, or would they send him on his way? And so it just went from there. And I just lifted the whole place in my mind, because I remembered afternoons when I'd go out there after getting off one of my jobs, and it'd be so damn hot outside you just couldn't stand to be out in it, and step in that cool darkness there, man. That air conditioner hits you and they got cold beer. So that was a logical place for my character to be hanging out, and all he needed was a reason. And I came up with that. He said my wife had left me to go live with somebody else, and that's where it all started right there.
Something was going on. I tried not to think about it. The way I had it figured, I could just stay where I was until the sun went down and make my way home without getting thrown in jail.
Mister, will you loan me $1?
What you need $1 for?
Get me something.
And he don't want to even fool with it, you know, but he just kind of feels bad for him, you know. He said it looked like the kid maybe always hadn't had enough to eat. Jim Short's way too big for him.
He didn't say thanks or anything. I started not to follow him just then. But Harry didn't have my brand, and there was a pack on the dash. God, it was hot out there. There wasn't even a dog walking around.
Get in, go on, get around, get in the car. Swear to God, how hard is it to buy a pack of cigarettes?
I started to go back inside so I wouldn't risk getting
would.
involved.
Swat the tar out of you.
You don't have to get yourself involved in things like that.
They got some nice cold beer in yonder?
Well, yeah, they do, but they won't sell cigarettes to a kid that little.
Depends on whether they know you or not. They don't know you, and most times they won't sell them to you. Is that not right?
I guess so.
Can I get a cigarette off you?
I knew I was already into something. You can get into something like that before you know it. In a minute.
Can I get one too?
You let him smoke?
Oh, he just does like he wants to. Here you go, Mama. You not got a light?
I knew I had to get back inside right away, before it got any worse. What she came out with stopped me dead in my tracks.
You, wouldn't buy a lady a nice cold beer, would you?
I'd already had about 5, and I was feeling them a little in the heat.
I'll be back in a little bit, Mama.
I guess I stepped back without meaning to.
You just gonna leave these kids sitting out here in the sun?
No, they'll be all right.
Well, lady, I'll buy you beer, but why don't you just, those kids are burning up in that car. Why don't you just pull it over there in the shade?
Reckon I could.
I didn't want to buy her beer, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it either. I just want to be done with it.
Lord, yes. And I need a pack of cigarettes, too, if you don't care. Marlboro Lights. Not the menthol, just the regular lights. I'm plumb get out. Been driving all day. Was trying to get to Morgan City, Louisiana. Her husband's supposed to have got a job down there. I don't know, I think that car's about had it. We left from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Them youngins has been yelling and fighting till they give me a sick headache. Sure is nice to sit down for a minute. Ain't it good and cool in here? Ain't, many men will help a woman out in trouble. Especially when she's got a bunch of kids. You ain't gonna drink that?
It's hot.
I'll drink it. It's some people in this world has got things and some that ain't. My daddy used to have money. On 3 service stations and a sale barn. Had 4 people drove trucks for him. But you can lose it as easy as you get it. You ought to see him now. Can't even afford to put him in a rest home.
It's kind of a thing where, you know, you think one thing's going on, then you read a little more and you find out, you know, something totally different's going on. That's why I like to read that story, because the audience starts laughing at first, they think it's funny, you know. Then later on, about 3/4 of the way they find out it ain't funny worth a shit.
I'd run over a dog with my truck that morning, and I wasn't feeling good about it. The dog had actually been sleeping in the road. I thought he was already dead and was just gonna straddle him until I got almost on top of him. Then he saw me, raised up. Of course, I didn't have time to stop then. If he'd just stayed down, he'd been all right. He's a small dog, but boy, I heard it when he hit the bottom of my truck. I don't know why I was thinking about that dog I'd killed while I was watching those people, but I was. It didn't make me feel any better.
That's my mama out yonder in that car. She ain't never knowed nothing but hard work, and she ain't got a penny to show for it. Well, what good's it done her to work all her goddamn life?
Well, she got some grandchildren. She got some of them.
I got a girl 18, never in a bit of trouble her whole life. Just up and run off last year with a goddamn sand nigger. Now, what about that?
I don't know.
I need another beer.
I knew she'd been stomped on all her life. Probably been forced to do no telling what.
So everybody talking about welfare. What are they gonna do when they get everybody off welfare? That's the answer, you know. And I'd ever done at the racetrack. Lost $75, had to sit next to that pit bull that vomited in the back seat. And then, well, I cut my hands open. It kind of looked like Jesus. We were taking rats. You have to have a permit. You have a permit to take a shit these days. Let me tell you something. People don't give a shit if you ain't got a place to sleep or nothing to eat. They don't care. They don't care. Son of a bitch. You ain't gonna be there when we get there. If we ever get there.
Get her out of here.
All right.
Fuck you.
Out.
You don't know nothing about me. You ain't fit to die.
Come on, let's go back outside.
You think your car will make it?
I didn't change my mind. I'm gonna stay here with you. I love you.
No. You can't do that. Come on.
Let's go down the road and get us a room. I want to.
No.
I may just go to Texas. I got a sister lives out there. I may just drop these kids off with her for a while and go on out to California, to Las Vegas. See, don't nobody know what I've been through. You can't live on nothing and feed 4 kids. You can't do it. And you can't hardly blame nobody for wanting to run off from it. If there's any way I could run off from it myself, I would.
That's bad.
Damn right, that's bad.
That's terrible.
Oh, what do you care? All you're gonna do is go back in there and get drunk. You just like everybody else. You ain't never had to go into the grocery and buy stuff with food stamps, have everybody looking at you. You ain't never had to go hungry, have you?
No.
All right, then. But you go back in there and drink your goddamn beer. We made it this far without you.
I knew that their troubles were more than she'd outlined. That they had awful things wrong with their lives that $30 would never cure. But I don't know. I felt like I feel when I see those commercials on TV of all those people, women and kids starving to death in Ethiopia and places, and I don't send money. I know that Jesus wants you to help feed the poor.
Come on, Mom.
Boy, you're a dumb son of a bitch.
There's a fine line I think you have to walk between hard-heartedness on this side and sentimentality on this side. You know, you can't go off into either one of those ditches. So you got to try to go down the middle of the road without leaning. And you really can't shade things. I mean, you can't say, oh, how bad this is, you know, without sounding sentimental, or you can't blow this terrible thing off, you know, to veer into hard-heartedness. You've got to try to just lay it out straight the way it is and let the reader form his or her own opinion about it. You know, you can't be influenced either way. And that's why, you know, that's why I get whatever negative things I get said about my work, it usually refers to how brutal it is. And I say, well, that's fine. It's okay for you to call it brutal, but just admit, by God, that it's honest.
He has a lot of morals. He does. His mother taught him that. If I had his fault, it would be a fault that I would want. He trusts everyone, where I don't. Very protective of my family. If I become your friend, I'll be your friend for life. I like a person for how the person acts toward me, not what he's done with his career, because everybody's different. Not everyone can be a writer or a filmmaker or anything like that. You just have to be a nice person. All I saw first was Larry, and the words came later. Just met Larry, fell totally in love with him, his wild side, because I was so different from him. And it's always been what Larry's wanted. Larry got. Always. But the kids say whatever I want, I get. Larry always gives me everything I want. I think down deep he knew that he had to turn it around, that it was not the way that he needed to go. It was a life that he didn't want to lead, and he finally got his priorities in order. They left him for a while, but he got them back, and now he seems happier than he's ever seemed in his life.
I wasted so much damn time, man, sitting on a bar stool. God. That's what kept me from working. I mean, I should have been finished this book a long time ago, but I just can't do both of them at the same time. It's just counterproductive for me, and not good for me either.
And if it changes tomorrow or tonight, then I've had the most wonderful last year and so many months of my life.
Oh, those are the roses I gave you, huh? Well, they're really pretty. They're still pretty after almost a week. Kind of starting to get the fade on them a little bit, ain't they?
Yeah.
What was that for?
24 years of bliss. Started to say hell.
No, I was supposed to say that.
You'd have been pissed if I said that. So.
Well, you did say it.
Well, it's in a joking way.
Well. Billy Ray, he's tall, red-headed, and the funniest person you'll ever meet on earth, and that's what I tell everyone. He's the good old country boy who likes to have a beer or two, but family's very important to Billy Ray. I tell him all the time I hope he has 9 girls, because he's so rough with Leanne, so bossy with Leanne. I hope he has 9 girls because they'll straighten him out. I depend upon Billy Ray. I have for years depended upon Billy Ray. Shane is an avid sports fan, loves sports of all kinds. He hopes to be a baseball coach when he gets older. Loves to party like his daddy. Always becoming friends with everybody he meets. very outgoing. And everybody will say Shane's my favorite. Bill Ray will say it in a heartbeat, that Shane's my favorite. And I've ruined him, and I've spoiled him, and he won't be worth anything. Because he'll hit the real world one day, and he'll fall flat on his face because of me. But I don't think so. Shane's too determined. Leanne, she has been something from the day she was born. She's very headstrong, and at the age now where she and I do not get along too well at times, because I want to protect her. She doesn't want to be protected. She reminds me of me, but she has more guts than I ever had, or ever will have. At 17, she's got more guts than I'll ever have. Larry, he may not say it, but I raised these kids for him to write, to stay out in his room, and he still got his writing. And now I'm losing what I worked for by them growing up and going on. That's why I look forward to grandkids. Larry says I look forward to it too much. Well, you know, kids grow up, you're ready to look at them again as little babies. That's why I bought those 2 rocking chairs on my front porch. I'm ready. One for him, one for me.
There's only so many books I can write in my life. You know, I'm going to die at a certain age. I don't know what that age is. But while I'm alive, I want to write as much as I can. And I want it to be good. I figure if my health continues and all, I probably still got 20 more years writing them. That'd be good. You know, to be writing at 68, that'd be nice. Don't relax by then, sure. But I hope my books survive. You know, I hope that they're still being read after I'm gone. That's probably about the most you can hope for, is for them to stay in print, like Faulkner and Flannery O'Connor, people like that, you know. You know, I don't know if my stuff comes up to that high level or not, because it is so high, but only really time will tell. Only time can tell.
Sort of a fog. It was Wednesday, November the 24th, around 7:15 in the morning. We were in bed, and I woke up with him, what I thought was him snoring, and I turned over to wake him up, and I realized he was facing me, which we never slept facing each other. We always laughed because we grew up, the kids grew up between us, sleeping with us, so we just got used to sleeping on opposite sides. And I turned over, and he was looking at me, and he was wet and clammy, and I knew something was wrong, and I called Paula and the 911 people, and I knew, and something hit me, that he was dying right then. And I held on to him and just told him I loved him, and that I'd watch after the kids, and it was okay, and I understood, and he died in my arms. It's quiet. It's a house that's lost part of its soul. I mean, it's just gone. I mean, nothing will ever be the same. It's, you know, slamming on the doors, him up all night. The house is quiet constantly. Waking up, getting up, knowing that you're going to have to spend that day without being able to say anything to him. Or having to deal with his work. You know, Larry's office. I never went in there unless I had something I had to say to him or interrupt him. And I never went through his papers. I never went through his books. Yeah, I handled the money side of it. He didn't have to do that, but like have to deal with his contracts, have to go through everything. That was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this. He's supposed to be doing this, not me. And then having to make those decisions that you think Larry would want you to make for him. That's horrible. That's something you're not supposed to touch. And I've had to do it. Just like, you know, papers. I guess I talked to him more than I realized. I listened to him, you know, and just like taking the garbage down to the road. That was horrible that first time I took it down. It was just horrible because that's what he did. And now I'm faced with that, which is so minor. And then what are you supposed to do with his money that's in his wallet? Just simple little things. What do you do with it? What do you do with all that stuff? Even though it was raining and it was cold and the wind was blowing, I was sitting there and I thought, a perfect day. This is the day Larry likes at Tula. Just perfect. And then at the end, when the wind went through and the tent went up and they had to catch it, and then it just died down and the sun came out. And I thought, okay, you're here. You let me know. Because I'm a full believer. You know, everybody will say I'm crazy. But I don't believe that you go on to heaven until God lets you stay and look at who comes, what people say, and let that be your last goodbye. It's the only place I feel Larry's presence is here. That's why I like being here. Because I guess just because he liked being here himself. And the fishing pole is where he left it the last time he used it. And that's been almost 10 months ago, and it's still the same spot. Through all the wind and the rain and the hurricane that came through, it's still there. Yep. Tell him whose girl you are.
My girl.
Mimi's girl. Tell him what your name is. Molly Beatrice Brown. Yes. And how old are you today? 3. 3. 3. 3. 3. The moment Molly was born, you could see the change coming in him. Everything in the house could be burning down. I could be lying in there with a broken leg hollering for him, but if he had to finish that line or that paragraph or that scene, Molly could call Pop, he was up and gone. Say, I'm Molly's little sister. I'm Molly's little sister. No, yes you are. Aren't you Molly's sister? And how old are you? 1. Remember what Mimi told you? 1. I'm 1. Was that a good kiss? It was. Look at there. What are they doing? Finally got tired of going to town, and he finally realized that there was nothing there. And he just had so many things he was looking forward to. Like finishing the shack. And he just finished it. Had just moved his furniture in the week before. Never got to ride over there. And that's what he was wanting to do. It was just a smooth sailing that we were going. And then, snap of a finger, it was taken away. I've not gotten mad at Larry for dying. I keep looking for that to happen because I understand that you go through that phase. But after the hurricane came through and I walked outside and there's shingles on my yard, I'm thinking, I did think, Larry, you're not supposed to leave me to have to take care of this. You're supposed to be here to do this. But that's the closest I've ever gotten mad at him. And I don't think that was mad. That was just something else I've got to deal with, without you. There's no doubt in my mind that we were meant to be together. I had just turned 18. I married him when I was 19. And we would have been married, would have been married 31 years.
Fish out of water is all internal combustion is busting my balls, blanking my eyesight away. Throwing darts at a dartboard, slinging slobber across a hall.